今日我哋嘅記者會即將開始。今日嘅講者會有5位，坐喺中間嘅係我哋警務處助理處長行動麥展豪，坐喺另外側邊2位嘅係我哋警察公共關係科總警司謝振中，另外有組織罪案及
Mr. Heng Tong, and also we have the General Superintendent from the Public Relations and the Triad. To the far right-hand side and left-hand side are Mr. Jiang from Public Relations and Mr. Liu from the Police Airport Division. So now you can take photos, right? Nobody's being blocked by the TV side, okay. Mr. Mai, please. Good afternoon, everyone. I believe yesterday you witnessed that in the international airport of Hong Kong, a series of incidents happened. A huge amount of protesters at a venue conducted a claimed peaceful demonstration. But there were still a small number of radical protesters. They push passengers, they beat up passengers, and they ignore other people's lives. I believe many residents have witnessed that these were not the so-claimed peaceful demonstration, but extremely violent incidents. Here, I would like to express my feelings for those who were hurt during yesterday's violent incidents. I hope they could recover soon. From yesterday afternoon, in the international airport of Hong Kong, we've seen demonstrators barricaded passengers from checking in to their planes, and they also set up barricades using baggage trolleys, and sometimes they sit around the exit and the entry points. Chinese and overseas passengers were not able to take their flights. Some people tried to take flight to go back home, and they were not able to do that. Some children even got too afraid. They cried out. And the old granny who sit on a wheelchair was barricaded by the protesters and couldn't go on with her trip. And in the lobby of the international airport, we see a lady had to leave her luggage up into the air and pass all the protesters. So all passengers, including domestic and overseas, were not able to get on the plane. Some passengers requested the protesters to let them go. However, confrontation happened, even clashes. The protesters still barricaded them from going into their planes. We've taken notice that a young girl from other countries who has no relatives in Hong Kong, they had to stay at the international airport. She had to wait for a long time, and she was very anxious and helpless. I believe you could all feel that. Yes, of course, demonstrators, they can sit in, they can do peaceful demonstrations, that's their freedom, but I do believe you all agree with me that peace should have the prerequisite of not affecting others. So in the incidents in international airports, we could all reflect upon what they have done. The protesters not only prevented passengers, and they were also hurting their own safety and the landing and also the taking off of planes. A radical protester, he got hold of Chinese mainland mail. Now you can look at the footage. As you can see from this footage, the protesters unlawfully got hold of this man, harassed him, and beat him, and even circle their arms around his neck. These extremely radical protesters beat up the victim, and this victim actually fall out of consciousness. Still, there were some protesters kept kicking at him. Paramedics were prevented from rescuing him. Ambulances were blocked as well. I believe all of you can agree with me that life is equal. When life is at risk, they should be rescued. As you can see, when police enter, they were not in riot gear. In order to prevent misunderstanding, so at the venue and also at the social media of the police, we made it pretty clear that the purpose of our entry into the airport is not to clear the airport, but to save other people. However, before they enter the terminals, they were barricaded. Some protesters used baggage trolley as barricades to blockade the police, and they hurled stuff at our police, also to point the laser guns or laser pens at our police. When the ambulance arrived, however, the paramedics were not able to deliver the victims to the ambulance until hours later. When police attempted to retreat but failed, a huge amount of protesters attacked police and vandalized police vehicles. When our police tried to pursue the violent protesters, and he was beaten up by many. So he had to take out a pistol. You can see the police try to leave, but huge amount of demonstrators blocked police vehicles with barricades, and they also hit the police vehicle with metal branches. The window was vandalized. Things were hurled at our police. However, the police were restrained and tolerant. They used appropriate amount of pepper spray to stop and suspend demonstrators' behaviors. One police tried to pursue the violent protesters, but he was circled and cornered and beaten up. His baton and pepper spray were taken away. When his life is at risk, he had to withdraw, and he had to draw his pistol to protect himself. So I have to point out, he draw his pistol to protect himself is 100% correct and lawful and rational. He's brave, tolerant, and decisive at that moment. I've taken notice that somebody adopted partial footage of this police officer drawing out his pistol and saying that he tried to kill the demonstrators. This is a distortion of what really happened. So I hope that you could know the truth. I know what's incorrect. When police left the airport and they unlawfully hijacked a Chinese mainland male, and they claim that he is law enforcement from Chinese mainland. As you can see, these extremely radical demonstrators took justice in their own hand. They bounded the victim's hands, harassed him and defacing him, once tried to take off his trousers, tortured him, and beat him up. So they actually had usage of violence. Some protesters used umbrellas to block the surveillance cameras. When journalists try to take photos of these protesters beating up other people, and there were verbal altercations from the prosecutors. They were pursuing their so-called human rights. They could sacrifice others' lives. For these violent acts, the police will definitely enforce the law and arrest those who are responsible. Now over to public relations, Mr. Xie, about yesterday's arrest numbers and the laws. Yesterday's operations. The police arrested 5, aged between 17 years old to 25 years old. One male was charged with assaulting police and the possession of offensive weapons. And these incidents happened in Terminal 1. Our police tried to save a passenger. Protesters threw stuff, hard objects at the police officers. They used laser guns to shoot at police officers. In order to conduct the operations, police arrested 5 protesters, and it is now under investigation by New Territories South police stations. I would like to explain the relevant law to you. Same with the major international airports. We belong to International Aviation Association. the criminal charges are relatively high. According to the item 15 of the aviation law, anyone try to use any weapons to conduct any violent acts, and these violent acts might cause death or personal safety and causing damage to others, might face charges of life in sentence. Raise both your hands and use your body to blockade others to leave, to restrict others' freedom to leave, might face the charge of 7 years. And also, the general assaulting crime might be up to 1 year of sentence. And the operation unit of the international airport has got the injunction from the police, from the court. If anyone ignore the injunction from the court, might face with the charge and be put into prison. And back to Mr. Mai. I'd like to summarize. The international airport has compact passengers, very important transportation hub in Hong Kong, a very important facility linking Chinese mainland. It is never a demonstration venue. We could accept peaceful demonstration, but extremely violent acts have exceeded the bottom line of peaceful demonstration. The police will try our best to arrest these violent culprits. Actually, these radical demonstrators can represent all protesters. Our society does not allow these radical protesters to hijack the peaceful demonstration, which does not affect residents' lives. A safe society requires cooperation from all walks in the society. Now there's an injunction taking effect in the international airport. We hope residents could work together with us and do not do anything that can be against the injunction. We appeal to you to cut ties with the violent culprits and to bring our social order back to the right track. Our police will stand fast to make every effort to protect the prosperity, the property and personal safety of all residents. Now we enter the Q&A session. Or we should have